Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I'm one of your hosts, Zach, and joining me as always is Aaron.
Hello.
And it is mid-October, so it is cooling off very nicely outside, and it's about time to start talking about spooky stuff. Speaking of which, I have thrown into our show notes our previous Halloween episodes because I did a little bit of a deep dive after last week. We talked about Halloween game recommendations.
Spooky games, yeah.
And I was like, I know we've done this before. And so I actually went back through the Starside Chat history and checked out some of our old episodes. So I have a little bit of a surprise for you here.
Oh, yeah? Reveal it to me.
Well, so starting all the way back on October 24th, 2018.
Wow.
On episode 20.
Oh my God.
We talked about Project Stream that episode and Assassin's Creed Odyssey and the Fallout 76 beta. I mean, this was old times.
That's crazy.
But we talked about Halloween themed events in online games. So like Destiny 2's Festival of the Lost and Overwatch's Dr. Junkenstein Revenge and Pokemon Go's Halloween event, because at the time they were adding Gen 4 stuff.
Sure.
And my not so spooky Halloween movie recommendation for that episode was Clue.
Oh, that is a good recommendation.
Yeah. And then our next, some of these were just like, mid-October. So it was sort of appropriate season. So we just kind of mentioned some stuff like that. But so then I don't think we recorded episodes in October in the years in between 2018 and 2021, but we did a bunch in like 2022. But our October 18th, 2021 episode, I think at some point in time we stopped numbering them. Maybe we should just we internally keep track of the number, but we don't necessarily put it in the title. Maybe I'll start putting it in the show notes or something, but October 18th, 2021, we talked about Metroid Dread.
Ooh.
And Eastward and New World and Battlefield 2042 beta. But yeah, Metroid Dread was a good discussion for October.
I loved that game, yeah.
And our Destiny 2 Halloween event, we were still talking about Halloween-themed versions of different events and games. And for 2021, I remember specifically playing a lot of it because they had like these sort of Halloween-themed versions of the Lost Sectors, if you remember those.
Yeah, I do.
And you'd go in and you'd fight these like pumpkin-headed versions of hive bosses. It was very fun. I played a ton of it that year. But we also talked about a game called Rogue Lords, which I've brought up probably many times.
Yes, we did a video on that.
We did, yeah. Go back on our YouTube channel and find that video. But it's like a Halloween-themed version of Slay the Spire, basically. We also talked about our favorite Mission Impossible movies. Because you had just rewatched Mission Impossible 3. And so it led to like another discussion on Mission Impossible movies. And your parting wisdom for that episode was to go to Culver's and try the Curder Burger.
Which is currently happening right now.
Yeah, I know, which is why I wrote this down, because I thought it was interesting that it is back and we could still be talking about the Curder Burger.
We could.
Burger today. And then on October 17th, 2022, we talked about Cultic Chapter 1.
Oh, yes.
We talked about Scorn, which is gross, and we didn't want to play it. But they had just come out with, I think, Ghostbusters Spirit Unleashed. So we talked about that a little bit. Dragon Ball The Breakers. It was fall anime season, so you were talking about a lot of anime. And I was at the time playing through Ghostwire Tokyo, so we were talking about that. And then the next week's episode, October 24th, 2022, we talked about Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope and more Ghostwire Tokyo. Then the next week after that, it was actually released on Halloween Day 2022, and we talked about the most common Halloween costume Google searches, which I think you kept trying to make video game related, and I think most of them are not, because they were just like what parents search. But yeah, we did do some spooky game recommendations and some like spooky season movie recommendations. Your game recommendation was Alien Isolation.
Yeah, they're making a sequel to that.
Are they?
Yeah, that's it's not in our show notes, but last week they revealed out of nowhere that there is a sequel being made for Alien Isolation.
Well, my recommendations were Luigi's Mansion. I think maybe, if I recall correctly, I think I had started playing the first one on 3DS because that game got released on 3DS, like weirdly, like after the Switch had already come out. And so like a year later, Luigi's Mansion 3 came out. It was weird to me that they released it on 3DS and not like ported it to Switch. But
yeah, it was in that weird interim period.
Yeah. But also that year I had played A Plague Tale, and when did Plague Tale Requiem come out? I think maybe that was not 2022, but I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Either way, I recommended that and Pumpkin Jack for my games for that year. And then we talked about spooky season movies, and mine were Sleepy Hollow, Clue, and Big Trouble in Little China. And you recommended Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing movie.
Yeah.
And I think we also talked about the Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Oh, yeah, because that had just happened, and Jeff Keighley was in it.
Yeah. On that episode, we also talked about the Helena Taylor Bayonetta 3 controversy, if you remember that.
I do not.
But we talked about the first image that had sort of leaked from the Amazon Fallout TV show.
Oh, man, it was in development forever. I remember that first one was so long ago.
We also talked more about Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and we gave a couple of spooky season game and movie recommendations. And I also recommended looking up on YouTube the Shibuya Halloween live stream, like walking tours.
Yes, I did that. It was crazy to see.
Yeah, I still recommend that because they're so fun to watch. I would bet that here in like the next couple weeks, just in the lead up to Halloween, and of course on Halloween, you'll probably see a bunch more of those pop up this year.
What day of the week is Halloween this year?
I think it's like a Thursday, maybe?
It is a Thursday. Yeah, that's weird.
And then our October 23rd, 2023, so jump ahead to the next year, we were talking about Super Mario Brothers Wonder on that episode, and we gave our thoughts on Apex Legends versus Call of Duty Warzone.
Which we hated. I remember playing that, and it was awful.
Yeah, well, and we were playing it in October, so there was like a Halloween event happening, and we hated it because every time you would open a chest, there would be some weird jump scare.
Yeah.
But also just like the menus of trying to get into Warzone was awful.
Yeah, I recall it was just like, it was such a chore to get in the same lobby and then to also like play the same game type. Because, I mean, maybe if you've grown up with it, it makes sense to you, but just jumping into it now, the launcher for all that stuff is just so confounding.
I remember we had to do some weird, goofy thing where like I joined your game and then you like yielded the lead to me so that I could start the match, or maybe it was the other way around, or it was something weird like that where we couldn't just like easily join each other and then start a match. And then I gave some old spooky movie recommendations, the 1930s Dracula, Mel Brooks' Dracula Dead and Loving It, and the old classic Mummy movie. And I had also just watched that Renfield movie where Nicolas Cage is Dracula. And so we talked about that. We also talked about The Return of Takeshi's Castle on Amazon Prime, which I need to go back and finish because I watched a bunch of those episodes and really enjoyed it, but I didn't finish that season they did. But that led us to a discussion of our favorite Beat Takeshi movies. And then we also did an episode the next week, again on Halloween Day. I don't know how this worked out where we were able to release episodes on Halloween like 2 years in a row, but we talked about Apex Legends, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and you told us about Iron Chef. Was, I think, maybe your parting wisdom for that one.
Still very into Iron Chef.
But we did our 5 Halloween games for non-horror fans recommendations. And this is where, so this list that we did last year is the one that has a lot of crossover for the episode we just did last week.
Interesting.
I'm going to see if you remember which games we recommended and how close our lists sort of from last year and this year sort of match up. But
okay.
So I recommended Rogue Lords, Pumpkin Jack, Ghostwire Tokyo, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Evil West. And then you recommended Soma, Doom 2016, Half-Life 2, Thief 2: The Metal Age, and Luigi's Mansion 3. And then I gave honorable mention to Lost in Random. But if you recall from last week, so my list was Pumpkin Jack, Ghostwire Tokyo, Evil West, Dead Space, and then Luigi's Mansion 3. So basically, it was the same list except I had Dead Space instead of Rogue Lords, but they were in different order, weirdly. And then your list from last week was Hollow Knight, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Soma, Thief 2: The Metal Age, and Inside. So a little bit more variation.
I did Thief 1.
Well, maybe you did. Did you mention Thief 2? Why did I write down Thief 2?
I mentioned Thief 2, but Thief 1 is more of a horror game. Thief 2 is more about robots and steam.
Oh, gotcha. Well, either way, your list is a little bit more different than mine. You did have Soma on both lists.
Yeah, a great game.
But my list is like one thing different and then in slightly different order. And then we also, on this 2023 Halloween episode, we talked about spooky movies, and I listed off Army of Darkness, Ghostbusters, What We Do in the Shadows, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, the 1960s Addams Family TV show, Dracula, Dead and Loving It, and Young Frankenstein. As I think I also talked about those Leica animated movies that are like the Tim Burton animated ones.
Coraline?
Yeah, stuff like that. So anyway, I thought it was kind of fun and interesting to just go back through our podcast history and find
a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, different episodes from October. Can you believe we've been doing this show for about 6 years now, is it?
Crazy to think about.
We started in 2018, so we're getting closer to 10 years running on this
it's true.
podcast.
We'll probably be playing PlayStation 6s by that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of these episodes I went back through and we were talking about like games we were anticipating for like 2021, and we were talking about like E3 stuff. Like it was like a pre-E3 show we had done. And we were like, man, I bet they'll release the name of the new Dragon Age game, Dragon Age 4. And it's funny because now, like, obviously 3-4 years later, it's just now going to come out under a completely different name. But
yeah,
crazy how time works. But
wait, what is the new one?
The name of the new Dragon Age?
Yeah,
the Veilguard.
That's right. I remembered it was called Dreadwolf, but I didn't know what the new one was.
So
called.
it was, people talked about it as Dragon Age 4 for a long time, and then they released the name as Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and then they renamed it like a year or two later as Dragon Age the Veilguard.
A weird thing to do, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but anyway, I thought that was a fun little dive down memory lane, but now we can get into the news for this week.
Zach, there was a Nintendo hardware reveal this week.
And it was not the Switch 2.
Unfortunately, no. I don't know why this happened, but there is now a $90 or $99 Nintendo alarm clock that you can purchase.
It is $100.
$100 for this Nintendo alarm clock, and its key features are that it has motion tracking, so it will like start to ring, and then like if you move around, it will make noises, and it will keep ringing until you get out of bed, and it will get like more aggressive, I guess, the longer you stay in bed.
It's unclear to me exactly how it works, because as you move, it's like, oh, you'll hear like coin sounds, but also it seems
that's
like,
only if you're on the Mario theme.
Well, yeah, but there are like three or four different themes. There's Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, and maybe that's
Pikmin.
It. Oh yeah,
there's Pikmin and Wii Fit.
Oh yeah, there's Ring Fit
or Ring Fit,
and Pikmin, and then I think they teased that maybe in like an update, additional ones might be coming as well. But
yeah, they showed like an Animal Crossing one and something else.
That makes so much sense to me, the Animal Crossing one.
Yeah.
It was, but what was unclear to me was like, how do you snooze it? Is like movement supposed to snooze the thing? So you could like sort of wave at it and be like, hey, snooze? Because
the top is a button and a dial. Like you can see if you watch the thing where they're picking and choosing. I watched like an Engadget video where they got their hands on it and they were playing with it. And you can tap down on the top light thing, and you can also spin the top light thing to like pick and choose like your theme and stuff. So I assume you just like hit the top thing to snooze it.
It's supposed to be motion control based though. So it was like, I know getting up was supposed to shut it off, so you're not actually supposed to have to touch the clock. It was unclear to me how snooze worked. Like if you just like rolled over, would it be like, oh, okay, you're sleeping a little bit more? Because I did watch Kit and Krista, formerly of Nintendo Minute, did a little episode where they were showing it. They unboxed it and tested it out. And it seemed like they didn't know how alarm clocks work because they set it for like a minute later, and then they laid down to try to like see what it was like and how the motion control worked. And then they like waved at it and it seemed like the music kept playing, but like the sound effects stopped. And I was like, oh, maybe it's gone into like some sort of snooze mode. And then they were like, well, maybe because they were doing the Zelda one and Zelda was like saying, wake up or open your eyes or something like that. And so when they waved at it, she like went away and it seemed like maybe it had gone into snooze mode. And they waited all of 1 minute and they were like, oh, well, this has stopped and I would definitely not wake up now. And I was like, well, yeah, you're supposed to be able to sleep when you hit snooze. Typically, it goes for like 10 minutes or something like that before it goes off again. So, I don't know. It seems like maybe the music keeps playing. It was unclear how this worked, but I don't know. $100 seems too much for this.
A wild price tag for this. Yeah, and also, I think it only works for one person.
Yeah.
So, like, if you share a bed with someone, it's going to keep going off until they get up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Or, yeah, you may not be able to set more than one alarm on it. I guess I don't know how that would work, but either way, there's like part of me that just for like the sheer novelty of it and like a person who grew up with Nintendo, kind of the collector in me wants it, but the practical side of me is like, one, it's too expensive, but also I don't want to hate Mario and Zelda music. So
that's true.
So I would probably,
the morning isn't really any alarm clock sound you're gonna grow to despise. So
anytime I've ever tried to use like some sort of song on my phone for like an alarm sound or a ringtone, I have grown to hate that song because it's like, as soon as it starts, you want to stop it and you begin to associate that with that song. And so I don't think I would use this, but I guess it's out there if you really want one.
This reminds me of something. It's a little off topic.
Okay.
But one time I was working at our previous job that we both worked at. And typically I would roll in later in the day because I had like evening things to do. But I forgot that I had a like morning meeting with a bunch of like bigwigs for some big project we were doing. And so my alarm was set for like 11 a.m. or something. But I don't remember what phone I had, but it was some phone where it would like, I could have a special alarm where it would like wake me up and tell me like the weather and tell me like news. I think it was like a Samsung phone. It was some half-baked feature they had. This was years and years ago. So like when my alarm would ring, it would have be this robot voice saying like, wake up, it's time to wake up. The weather is this, the news is this. And so I forgot I had this meeting and I woke up and I was like, oh, I have this meeting. So I ran in and it was like a 10 o'clock meeting. And during the meeting, my alarm went off and it was like, hey, it's time to wake up. And I had to like get in my pocket and be like, oh, sorry, my thing. And somebody in the meeting was like, why is your alarm set to wake up at this point? It's like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh, I must have accidentally set it that. I don't know what's going on. But it was very embarrassing.
Yeah, when you work like late in the day, like evenings and nights, Like you end up setting alarms for weird times, and you would think that other people in like TV would know that, but
they're all on their normal schedule.
Yeah.
So who cares about that?
Yeah, they don't think about it, but would that have been the old Moto G days?
Possibly. Maybe
Moto
it was
X
a Motorola.
is what it was.
Moto X.
You remember the Moto X? It was the one that was like the first one that was like, you know, sort of a virtual assistant where you could like talk to Google. This was before Google Assistant even.
I feel like I had an HTC phone back in the day. It may have been an HTC something that could like flip open.
Oh, really?
I don't remember. It's been so long.
Because I do know at one point you had a Moto X, and I thought it was very cool. But
maybe it was the Moto X. I don't remember. I have a drawer somewhere with all of my old phones, so I could probably find it.
Well, there was an overview trailer that Nintendo dropped for Mario and Luigi Brothership this last week. Did you get a chance to watch this?
I did not. How is this looking? I know you're hot on this game, right?
I am so on this game. I think I may play this. I'm not sure, but it does look like a spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG. And I know that like the Mario and Luigi games were on like the DS, sort of DS and 3DS like handhelds. So it's not that this is like the first time since Super Mario RPG they've done like a turn-based battle RPG type of a game. But yeah, just having played Super Mario RPG even recently because of the remake they did like a year or two ago now. I forget how long ago it was, but it definitely reminded me of that. So there, myself included, there have been a lot of people who have like wanted them to do like a new version of Super Mario RPG, and this seems to be the closest thing we will get to an actual like sequel to Super Mario RPG.
I forgot that the conceit of this was islands, and that the brothership was a double meaning of like they're brothers, but also they have a brother ship.
Yeah, they actually have a ship, and this is like island based, but yeah, it seems like they've got some interesting mechanics where you can actually like move around together. And so like Luigi will have like ice power and Mario will have fire power. And so you can throw out ice and fire at the same time or whatever, depending on the environment you're in. But also they do this weird thing where they like get together like they're going to dance, but then they spin around and become almost like a helicopter to be able to like
a UFO to me.
Yeah, or a UFO to be able to like cross gaps in the terrain. So
yeah,
they have interesting, weird little team ups like that. But
it looks cool, I have to say. I had not really given it much thought, but this gameplay makes it look very fun, especially if you can play it with, I assume you can play it with another person.
Yeah, that's the real question. I also assume that this is like tailor made to be able to play in co-op with like one other person.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know, but I assumed that would be the case, but I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
So when does this come out? This is on November 7th is when this comes out.
Right around the corner.
So not too far away. What is this Off the Grid game?
I kept getting this recommended on TikTok of people playing this. This is, I guess, a new battle royale that is in early access right now. And the conceit of this one is that it's cyberpunk, and your whole thing is that you're collecting different cyber limbs in this like cyberpunk world. And that's how you're like, I guess, upgrading round to round. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's got some interesting ideas. It's third person, so it's kind of like a Fortnite type thing. It's not first person. I guess I don't have a ton to say about it. I just thought it was interesting that there's a new battle royale and it's like kind of like cyberpunk. I don't know if I'll play it, but it seems like people are playing it. What do you think of this gameplay that I've posted?
This is like a almost an hour long thing, and
oh yeah, I would say just skip around in it.
Because it starts out and it's very like cinematic heavy. So yeah, definitely have to skip around for this. But yeah,
there's like objectives you do in the world. I think that's another way they're sort of like differentiating themselves from other battle royales. Is like when you drop in, you're given like 3 or 4 objectives you have to complete in addition to staying alive. So I don't think it's an extraction shooter. I don't think they have like fully extraction mechanics like a Tarkov, but it also seems like it's very vertical. Like there's a lot of flying around. I don't know if that happens mid-match. I think there's a thing you can get where like your feet become rocket boots possibly. And you can like kind of relaunch, but
definitely you can see the circle enclosing around them. So
yeah, just an interesting new battle royale. I thought I would shout out. I don't know if it will at all gain traction, but
yeah, you just never know with these anymore because it seems like there's a new one every couple of months, and pretty much none of them stick around for very long, other than the ones that already exist, like Apex and Fortnite. But
which, by the way, I don't know. This isn't in our show notes, but the Halloween update for Fortnite looks really cool.
Oh, does it?
You get like a chainsaw that you can. It's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, I guess. So you can wave it around, but also you can ride it, and it like I guess like zips you around the ground, kind of. You can be a xenomorph. You can purchase a xenomorph skin, like from Aliens, which is interesting.
Yeah, I haven't played a ton of Fortnite. I wonder if Apex has. I'm sure they have some sort of Halloween event thing happening as well.
I don't know. We got really into Apex, I think, shortly after Halloween. So I remember, I think there was like a thing where you could have other people's perks or something by getting candy. I don't remember. That was like right when we started playing again. And then it ended and the new season started.
Yeah, every time I think about like collecting candy, I think of the Destiny event, the Halloween event, because you're always like collecting candy and exchanging it for like, I don't know, items from the Cryptarch or something like that. But
the Cryptarch, I haven't thought about that guy in a while.
I know, it's been so long since we played Destiny, but I used to love the Halloween stuff they did, because they always did an event around Halloween, and they had like cool different like weapons and armor skins you could get. Like I was doing those Lost sectors that we were just talking about, and I was had my warlock kind of dressed like Dracula basically. It was like a cool look.
I also wanted to shout out, they revealed the release date for the sequel to The Case of the Golden Idol, which is called The Rise of the Golden Idol. And this is an interesting one because it's set in somewhat more modern times. The Case of the Golden Idol was set in like the past, but this is like a place with like, you know, televisions and stuff. There's a demo out now you can check out, but it is releasing on November 12th on PC, PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox, and mobile via Netflix.
I hate that mobile games are now tied into Netflix, because there's that Monument Valley. There's going to be a new Monument Valley game, and I've played the previous two and enjoyed them, but now it's like locked behind a Netflix subscription, and I'm just like, great. I'm not going to sub to Netflix to be able to play this.
Such a weird thing also.
Yeah. It's one of the worst things that has happened to mobile games is the Netflixification of it.
Did you ever check out the Case of the Golden Idol? It's on Game Pass right now.
I did not. I always heard it was very good, but I never did play it.
I think you would like it. I think everyone should try it out even if the art kind of turns you off, it just seems weird, because it is like a very weird art style. It makes you feel really smart when you complete the like levels or whatever, complete the puzzles in a way that I think is pretty unique. And I'm excited for this one to come out in a couple weeks, in I guess a month actually. But I think that's all the news we have.
Well, we got plenty of stuff to talk about in what we're playing watching, so let's dive into that. I guess I can start us off since I did finish Plucky Squire. I don't think it was this last week. It might have been the week before. But I don't know. I'm only so-so on that game.
Really?
I think it is one of those things where like you have to give them credit for like bold choices and like trying a bunch of different things and sort of coming up with interesting ways to switch up the gameplay. But like there's, you know, you go from basically doing like 2D and 3D platforming to like doing this sort of, turn-based RPG battle at one point to doing like 2D side-scrolling twin-stick shooter shmup type of gameplay to like there's one point where you're doing sort of it's almost like Dr. Mario style like match 3 type of thing. I guess I don't have a lot of history with that type of game, so I don't know a good comparison to make with it. But I find the problem is when you're doing the platforming, it never becomes Mario. And when you're doing like the top-down Zelda stuff, it never becomes Zelda. And there's like the Mario or the like word-based stuff, because there's also, you're in a storybook, and so you can occasionally, there are puzzles tied to like, let me take one of these words in this sentence and move it to another sentence, and take the word from that and move it to this other sentence, and you can like sort of create ways or to get through the level. But it never becomes Baba Is You. And so I feel like it is sort of, what is that phrase?
A jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically a jack of all trades and master of none. And it sort of, I don't know, like it competently does everything it does. It just never does anything so well that I'm like, ooh, I wish I had more of that to do in this thing. So, and I don't think it helps that it was released sort of sandwiched between Astrobot and Echoes of Wisdom, because it's at times trying to be a platformer and at times trying to be a Zelda game, and it's not as good as either Astrobot or Echoes of Wisdom. So it's just sort of, I don't know. I was only so on it. I think it's fine. It's not like a bad game. It's just not a very remarkable game either.
You don't think it's going to be in the Game of the Year conversation?
I don't. No, I think definitely Astrobot will be, and you might even see Echoes of Wisdom in that conversation, but I do not believe you'll see Plucky Squire in there.
Interesting. Well, R.I.P. to Plucky Squire.
R.I.P. Again, not a bad game, just not a very remarkable one.
Yeah.
What is Shadowdark?
So I teased this last week. I purchased 2 RPGs, and I talked about Into the Odd last week, which I have the book for. Shadowdark won a bunch of awards this year at the Ennies, and I don't know what the Ennies are, but it won like, I think 4, it swept the awards. And so I bought this as well, but I think because it won the awards and I'm sort of late to the party, the like rule book is somewhat out of print, and so I bought one, but I'm not going to get it until like January because they have to reprint a bunch more. But I have the PDF for it, and it's very cool. It's a retro RPG that takes a lot of inspiration from like classic Dungeons and Dragons before it got very complicated. So whereas in Dungeons and Dragons, we talked about last week, there's sort of 2 games you play. There's the character creation game as well as the actual game. This, you can roll characters very quickly. There's only 4 classes. There's Cleric, Fighter, Thief, and Wizard, which are sort of like the base classes. Like in Dungeons and Dragons now, there are other classes, but they're sort of offshoots of those. Like a Warlock and a Sorcerer are basically a Wizard, or like a Barbarian and a Monk are kind of a Fighter. So it's kind of boiled it down to just the essentials. And another thing that's good about this is there's sort of power creep in Dungeons and Dragons where it starts to get very complicated in later levels because you have all these things you have to keep track of for like modifiers on rolls and stuff. Like maybe you're wearing a piece of equipment that increases your dexterity. Maybe you have a special like character feat that also increases your dexterity. And like you're in a certain situation where there are like 2 people next to you. So like that increases your dexterity or something. All that stuff. None of that stuff really happens with this because it's built on what they call flat math. So like modifiers don't really affect damage rolls. They just affect your ability to hit. So typically in Dungeons and Dragons, if you have like a large strength modifier and you use a melee weapon, you add your strength modifier to that. But with this, you're really only adding to like your hit chance, basically. A lot of it is like streamlined and a lot easier than Dungeons and Dragons, where you can just like, you can roll a character very quickly. There's not really as many options. So you kind of just pick something and then you roll right into the game, and playing it is also like it's not as complex. There's like not as many spells and equipment, all that stuff. But the other really cool thing about it is there's this light element. So it's kind of played in real time, and you dive into these dungeons, you crawl into them, and no playable race is like dark adapted, has like night vision, which is a thing that happens all the time in Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody plays as like elves and dwarves, and everybody can see in the dark. But with this, all your playable races cannot see in the dark, and so you need to have a light source, which can be torches, it can be a magic spell, but whatever the light source is, it typically will only last for 1 hour of real time. So when you get into the dungeon, you light your torch up, and then you set like a real world timer for 1 hour, and then you sort of have to be aware of that as the like game master or whatever. And when that goes out, all the lights go out, and then like bad stuff happens, or they'll like light another torch or whatever. But this book is really a toolbox of things. Like there's so many really great tables in it that you can roll for. Like there's a table for making monsters. There's a table for making encounters, for making like names and stuff, where you just like kind of roll a couple of times, and all of a sudden you have this like automatic encounter it's created for you. So it's like a really versatile book. I've been reading through it. I haven't like run a session of this or Into the Odd yet, but I'm really excited to, because both of these seem really great for different reasons. So if you're looking to get into Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe you don't want to, it's intimidating, because Dungeons and Dragons, that book is like so dense, especially the new one that just came out. So if you're looking to just like roll up some characters and play a very simplified role-playing experience, Shadowdark I think is a great option. That I recommend, even though I haven't played a session of it yet, but I hopefully will in the coming weeks and months, and I'll review it then if there's any pitfalls I run into. But yeah, Shadowdark, I recommend it. I think on DriveThruRPG, the PDF is like not super expensive, but if you get the book, you can get the book or the PDF, or the book and the PDF as like 3 different options. So you can start with the PDF, and if you like it, you can get the book.
Well, I did start Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which I know you have played a lot more than I have already, but I had to put Echoes of Wisdom on pause so that I could jump in, because now is the time. Now is the perfect season to be playing Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I have only completed the first like handful of levels, so I'm not super far into it yet. But
what are you on the second or third house yet?
No, I'm still on the first house.
Oh wow!
So I think there's like 30 some levels in it, which was crazy to me. I was playing through it and I Googled it. I was like, how many levels are there in this? And it was like a shocking number to me, because I had played like 4 or 5 of them, and I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. And then it was like 34 levels. I was like, wow, I got a long way to go in this. But I did also I tried the Scare Scraper mode, because you can play it online with randoms, and that was fun for a little while as well. It would be like a fun way to sort of dip your toes back into it. But I wonder how many people are actually playing it, especially given that like Luigi's Mansion 3 is still out there, and there's like a Scare Scraper mode in that. I wonder if people are playing this one because it's a more recent release, or if people are playing that one, or if nobody's really playing either. But it was interesting to me that like if you switch over to Scare Scraper and you play that for a little while, whatever ghosts that you capture and like the money and all of that you get from doing that sort of carries over to your main save as well. So like if you check your sort of monster ghost compendium, I guess, the stuff you find in there will also count towards that. So
I had no idea about that.
Yeah. An interesting, nice little feature they have, sort of crossover between the two modes. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think I'll play more of it. I do want to try to play through it before Halloween, I guess, because that's when the new Dragon Age drops, and I'm still undecided if I'm going to pick that up or not. But if I'm done with the other stuff I'm playing, maybe I will, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. It is, I definitely better to play on Switch than the first Luigi's Mansion was to play on 3DS when I was playing that.
Oh yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know how people played so many games on 3DS. Those little thumbsticks, and it just like, I don't know. I need it on Switch, and that's why I'm really hoping that they will eventually port and remaster the first game on Switch, or maybe Switch 2. But I would prefer playing it that way than playing it on 3DS. But yeah, I probably not as good as Luigi's Mansion 3, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, 3 is a masterpiece. I think I talked about it when we first started playing, and I don't know if you've run into this yet, but there is a thing that happens in the second Luigi's Mansion where, because it's meant to be played on a 3DS, there's not really any save points. So like, you're meant to just like, close your Switch or whatever, or your 3DS, and you finish your commute and then get back to it or whatever. But some of the levels get really long, and if you die at the very end of the level, there's no save. There's no checkpoints. You just have to do the whole level over again. Which I feel like they could have added something to fix that, but they didn't really. I don't think so. That's my one complaint with that. I mean, it's still a great game, and Luigi is still great. But I definitely prefer the third one because of, I don't know. I think also the theming in the third one is better as well.
Yeah, I do like the hotel, like the mini floors of the hotel that each are their own sort of amusement park themed land. Basically, I really like that.
And I liked the Gooigi aspect of 3 as well. That was a really good puzzle mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see, I was walking around one of the levels and I saw like a little drain in the floor. I was like, oh, if this was Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi would go down there and find something cool.
It's true.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. When you complete a level, it gives you like a rating. Is it like, can you earn a better rating or a worse rating depending on like how long you take or how many things
I'm not sure what contributes to that. I almost always get a bronze, and Luigi like looks at the camera and is like, whatever. I've only ever gotten like I think a silver once, and I think so. Okay. Every level has a secret boo in it that you have to find, and I think that also contributes to it being like a solid like gold medal or whatever.
Because I have gotten the first boo, but it showed up as like almost like a story moment, so I would almost have to go back to the first few levels and try them again to see
I think that's what it wants you to do,
a boo in them. But I have only gotten silver, and every time it would pop up as silver, and so I was like, is this good? Is this all the only thing there is? Is this like as good as it gets, or is there like a better way to go about these levels and I'm just not doing it well or not? So I was not sure, but I wonder if the amount of time it takes factors into that. And if you like speed run it or whatever, you get like a better score or you get like a gold or something. But like, that's kind of not how I want to play it. You know what I mean? I want to take my time and like really search every nook and cranny and see if I can find every single aspect or every single
I think it's
thing.
It's that 3DS creeping back in as like a design mechanic where like they wanted you to be able to replay levels over and over again, like on your commute or just like at school or whatever. So now there's incentive to go back and replay a level.
Yeah.
Like super fast, or actually I don't know what contributes to it. I wonder if it is time related or not.
I mean, I assume some of it is just like getting a lot of money as well, because in each level, as you like get the different ghosts, and I have like in some of the levels I've gone a little bit off the beaten track and found like a room where it has that mechanic where it sort of locks the door basically, and you have to deal with a few ghosts before you can leave again. And so I feel like you can collect more ghosts and get more money out of a level than if you just, mainline it basically. And so I wonder if that's part of it, but
I will also say one more criticism I have of it is it was easier to control Luigi in the third one for sure, because in this one, because it's made for the small screen of a 3DS, there are like dedicated buttons to like look up and down.
Yeah. But I think,
I feel like they could have fixed.
I think they did, because you just use the thumbstick now.
You can just use a thumbstick, yeah.
So you kind of don't. It is weird to have dedicated buttons to like look up, but you can just use the right thumbstick to look around. So I feel like they sort of fixed that. And just like in Luigi's Mansion 3, they made it so the shoulder button is like your flashlight thing, to like sort of stun a ghost so that you can capture it with your vacuum. And so that makes it so that you can be holding the flashlight to charge it up while still using both your thumbs on the thumbsticks to look around. So I feel like they've sort of tried to port it to similar controls to Luigi's Mansion 3, but they do still have that weird look up, but like dedicated button press, which is weird, but
yeah.
This is like, I think the DS and like the PSP and the like any portable handheld console of the past had this like game design assumption that they were all going to be level based, and each level was going to be relatively short so that you could play them during your commute. And then it was like, oh, you're going to find items and things in this and get rated on it. And the idea would be that you would want to replay them over and over again. And you don't really see that often in like big console games. So it was just like an odd thing that was like born out of, portable consoles or handhelds from that particular era. I remember I had a PSP at one point, and I remember seeing a lot of games that were like that. It's like, oh, this just must be how they do portable games now. It's all level based. I feel like that to an extent, even that, what was that Final Fantasy game that got it recently within the last year or two, got a console remake, or because it's sort of tying in a little bit with the Final Fantasy remakes.
Oh, Dirge of Cerberus?
I don't think it was Dirge of Cerberus. It was Crisis Core is what it was.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Even that, like, you can tell, like, some of the DNA is still, like, tied up in the old handheld, because some of it's so level-based. But, weird thing of games past is just how level-based things were. But I have also been playing another thing that I didn't put in my show notes, but I guess I will before I publish it. But I started Epic Mickey Rebrushed.
Oh, I wanted to play that. How is it?
I know you were talking about it, and that got me thinking about it, because I never did own a Wii. And that game, there was like maybe a handful of games for the Wii that I was always like, man, I kind of wish I could play that, because I didn't really like the Wii that much because of motion controls and like standard definition. But I was very much a 360 boy back in those days. But but this is one of the ones that I was always curious about. And I'm playing it on PS5, and it does look pretty nice. They've definitely updated it to look pretty good and run fairly smooth on a PlayStation 5. But yeah, it's just like a classic platformer, and you're collecting all these items and everything. I don't think I'm super far yet. I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's definitely got this, like, you're sort of going through sort of a different representation of like the amusement park, and so you're seeing different like rides and collecting items, and you're jumping into these old-timey sort of cartoons, basically like sort of Steamboat Willie style, moving 2D side-scrolling in between the 3D sections, which is interesting. But yeah, you have on your left trigger is paint thinner, and on your right trigger is paint. And so you're able to remove parts of the environment to see if there's stuff behind it and then put it back again. So you're sort of rebuilding. It's very sort of tied up into like Disney past as well, because obviously Walt Disney made Oswald the Rabbit, which was sort of his first. It was Mickey before Mickey, basically. And then I guess he like lost the rights to Oswald because of some goofy TV stuff or whatever. Maybe I don't know the history of this well, so I'm not going to describe it well. But then of course he made Mickey, and so this is sort of Disney got the rights back to Oswald, and now Oswald is in this game, sort of wreaking havoc, trying to steal the role that Mickey ended up taking. And so at one point you go to not Main Street, USA, which is like the main area in Walt Disney World, but it's called Mean Street. And the famous statue in Main Street that has Walt standing there with his hand raised and he's holding the hand of Mickey. Now he's holding the hand of Oswald. And so Mickey has to like, I don't know, set things right. But I guess if you're like a fan of like old school Disney stuff, this and like the parks and everything, this is like kind of a fun novelty of like an old school platformer collectathon type of a game to play. So, and it has, because it's sort of like a little bit darker as well, it kind of has like an appropriate vibe for this season. So, but obviously cartoony instead of like horror type stuff. But yeah, I think you'd probably enjoy it if you gave it a shot.
Maybe I'll check it out. It's on Switch too, so maybe I'll pick it up on Switch.
Yeah, I have not heard how it performs on Switch, but I assume it's a pretty good place to play as well. So is it on Xbox? I actually don't know.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. If it is, that would probably be better.
Yeah. Either way, I think it would be something you'd probably enjoy. But I see you have still been watching Dandadan.
Yes, I just wanted to shout it out again. The second episode came out, and still great, still really good. Very excited for the whole season, but I highly recommend it.
Well, on that note, do you have any parting wisdom?
Zach, you mentioned the phrase "jack of all trades," and it reminded me of the show "Jack of All Trades." Are you aware of this show?
I have heard of it. I think I know what it is, but let me look.
It's a Bruce Campbell show that came out back in the day on like this before the CW was the CW. I think it was like UPN.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about this at one point.
This is more, it's not just about Jack of all trades. Any old show like this that seems to be lost to time, usually someone has posted every single episode to YouTube. And I believe that is the case for Jack of all trades. And this is a classic show where Bruce Campbell is like an American guy. He was an American spy during the Revolutionary War. And then I think he gets relegated to some island somewhere that is like under British control. And so him and this, or no, wait, I'm wrong, because I think his compatriot is a British spy. I don't know who the villains are. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I like this show. And it's available all on YouTube, similar to how I watch like Dr. Katz or even Iron Chef. If you're ever nostalgic for an old show from like the early 2000s or 90s, check YouTube and see if it's been uploaded by some kind individual.
Yeah, sometimes that's the only way some of these old shows get preserved. I probably will watch this actually because I like what I've seen of this. But also, like a few years ago, I think it might have even been in 2020 because I remember it was like COVID times and I was like staying at home playing games. And I ended up watching that old Maniac Mansion TV show. All on YouTube. It like basically only exists on YouTube, and that was like a weird blast from the past. But then I started looking up the old. There was like this like it was maybe like an 80s or 90s Zorro TV show. I think that one actually might be on some sort of service. It was maybe on like Pluto or something like that. One of those weird services. It might have even been Roku. I don't even remember, but you can find the episodes somewhere. But there's like this old Zorro TV show that I used to watch in the 90s when I was super young. So I only have like the vaguest recollection of it. But I started watching it like a long time ago. And then another one was the Hercules show, which is actually, I think all of those episodes are on like Amazon. So it's like not, Amazon, that one's not as hard to find. But like, yeah. Go watch some like old 90s era TV, because there's like something very nostalgic about it, even if it's something you haven't necessarily watched before. But
another one I'll shout out before we go, I used to watch I back-to-back of, I watched 3 things in a row, and it was Jack of All Trades, an insane show called She Spies about these 3 women that were spies. And then another show called Cleopatra 2525, which was this girl gets cryogenically frozen in our time, or like the 90s, and then wakes up and she's in the future where like robots control the surface of the earth, and everyone lives underground in these like crazy tunnels, kind of like Matrix-esque almost, except no one's plugged into a virtual environment. All 3 of those shows are super solid and worth watching, but I don't think none of them are available on streaming services, so you really have to hunt them out on YouTube or somewhere like that.
Yeah, we always talk about games preservation and how like rough it is and how we wish things were better, but I mean, I think the same can be said for like a lot of TV shows from
it's true,
from past eras. But funny, there's a Jack of All Trades TV show, but there was also a Master of None TV show that were not sequels at all, not related in any way. But yeah, on that note, go ahead and follow this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or YouTube Music. I want to say we're in other places as well. Just look up Starside Chat or Starside Cafe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.